Finally, the granddaddy of all mix templates, the solid state logic. After you have sent your tracks through the virtual recording console, whether that be an API, a Neve, a Trident, or what have you, after you've gotten a little bit of saturation and a little bit of compression and some tone shaping equalizers and a tape compressor and saturator and all that good stuff, old school but in the box simulation. Now it's the mixing console. So we're going to concentrate on just a few things. Clean equalization. We're going to put space to our tracks finally with reverb, with delays, with coursing effects, with panning. Yes, we're finally going to get to panning. But what did I choose? I chose the Solid State Logic 9000J because that, to me, it's modern enough but still vintage. It is the choice of console for a lot of high-end, famous audio engineers. So if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. The 4000E and 4000G are separate templates. For this one, I'm just going to focus on the 9000J. Basically just swap out the channel strips. But let's get started. I want to address the 4000 EQs and channel strips first. Get those out of the way because that's not what this template's about. It's about the 9000. So back in 24, what is that? That is Adobe with their Acrobat updating in the background. You gotta love it. Anyway, back in the year 2014, the Virtual Mix Rack was released by Slate Digital, and with it they released the collection, which included an SSL equalizer, a Neve equalizer. This FG401, this was originally based off of the SSL channel strip compressor in combination with a distressor, Empirical Labs distressor compressor. So I don't think a lot of people use this plugin for some reason, but anyway, I have it because I've always found it to be a nice, good overall compressor. You know, it's nothing to write home about, but it gets the job done. So what I'm going to do is actually save this. I really took a lot of time to think about this and get this to be as perfect as I humanly can. And I'm actually going through now and deleting some plugins that I'm not going to end up using, at least in this template. The next one is Analog Obsession SSQ. This is a freebie / donationware plugin. So if you are on a ultra low budget, this is the one to get. I don't personally use this plugin, but I'm talking about it so you guys know about it. Okay, next up. Now this plugin is Sand 3 from Acoustica Audio. It does feature an SSL 9000J emulation on Equalizer C. The filters as well, 9000J if you choose the C option. But the line inputs, the mic inputs, these are all based off of a 4000G, I believe. But I'll be talking about this later on in the video. They also have this module, which is just for the 4000E, or it's based off of that, as well as the 4000G Plus. And this is IK Multimedia's British channel, which is also a 4000 emulation. This is based off of, obviously, the 4000 channel strip compressor. And I have this in a lot of the video. There's a newer version of this that you can now purchase. It's not called the Dyne 4000 anymore. Figured I'd talk about that. And finally, on this plugin, saw it from Acoustica Audio. If you choose Sand, that's an SSL emulation. I don't know what kind of SSL it is, though. I really don't know. Is it a 4000? Is it a 9000? Is it a 9000 JK or K whatever? I don't know. I don't think it is. And because I don't know what it is, I'm not including it in this particular template. But Salt is definitely one of the Acoustica Audio plugins I recommend if you're a first-time buyer, or at least a first-time trier. I'm a big acoustical audio fan, but the 4000 EQs do not belong in this mix template. So we're going to go, actually, I'm going to go on the master bus for right now. I've officially now tried to record this video 3 different times. Now this is the 4th try. And I want to make this as simple as possible. That's why I just interrupted myself, because it was important to talk about the 4000s, but now I just want to go through all these plugins and not really even talk about them. I just want to show you guys on screen which ones I chose, okay? And I'll talk about some issues I ran into at the end after I show off the plugins. So let's go. I'm going to shut my mouth. You guys can just look at these. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them in the comment section about why I chose each one of these plugins. Take note, type C for the EQ and for the filter. But yeah, I'll answer your questions below. Now for the color coding, I owe that to Mark Mozart. He made a book called Your Mix Sucks. So I took the color coding from him. I'll show you guys the color coding for all the different tracks. Okay. Now, the track order itself, let me go to my notes right here. The track order itself, there's no standardized track order in audio engineering, but Cambridge Music Technology, which hosts a lot of free multi-tracks to download, they've pretty much standardized it in some capacity, so I took it upon myself to use their track order. You guys can see all these different instruments on screen right now. That's the track order. It ends there with the background vocals, double tracking, and starts with the kick drum. So onto this. Okay, I already did that one, I guess. In case I didn't, I'm going to show it again. But the primary thing, while I show you guys these plugins, the primary thing with mixing for me is I want to be able to concentrate on getting the last bit of quality out of tracks, make them blend well together. But most importantly, what separates amateur mixes from professional mixes is automation. If you don't know what automation is, essentially it is you set different parameters. Let's say I have a shelf boost at 3 decibels. Okay? And it sounds good during the verses, but I want that to be a little bit louder. I want that to be boosted a little bit more during the chorus. Okay? So with automation, I can set it so that instead of it being a 3 decibels boost, it's a 4 or 5 decibels boost, just for that section of song. So yeah, automation, I'm going to actually do an automation, either one big video about automation or a series of videos on automation, because it's such an important topic that I don't see get covered enough on YouTube. Okay. I'm still going through these. I think I just showed off the overheads, didn't I? Yep. Onto the drum room. So mixing also, as I said earlier, it's about adding space to your tracks, meaning reverb, delays. You know, now that your track sounds good individually, dry, we'd like to say in audio engineering terms, so no reverb, no spatial effects, now we're adding them. But I try to get my track sounding good dry first, and then I'll add reverb, then I'll add delay as like a final touch. That's another thing you can automate. Drum bus. Again, if you want me to talk about these plugins, you can check out the video, which I'll link below, which is on channel 2. Real Home Recording 2. And I go very in depth with these plugins, with the exception of some late additions. Hold on, let me make sure I went through bass. I'm kind of, yeah. Now onto the electric guitars. Double track. Actually, double track doesn't need this. Electric guitar 2. Electric guitar 2 double track. If I had a pop song and there was no guitars or very few, I would put the synthesizer tracks on the electric guitar tracks. And then here we have the electric guitar bus. Here's a newer plugin. Rest in peace to Mixanalog. They closed up shop yesterday. They were a great little service, and I'm going to miss them. Yeah, Access Analog still exists, and they're in business, but you know, I liked having both, especially the tape machines. But the tape machines will be going to a new home, and that service will be announced, and I will make a video once that's announced, because real tape machines are pretty cool. Okay, keyboards and pianos and all that good stuff. Dynamic equalization, very important, as well as spectral compression. I should mention that I ran into problems with having way too many plugins because of a limitation with Windows 7, something called TLS. If I look that up in my notes, here it is, FLS, not TLS. FLS slots. I ran out of them because I use Windows 7. It's also a Windows 8 problem, but not on Windows 10 or newer, and not on Mac. This is more of a late edition. So RealTech it's great for string instruments. It's like an EQP 1A, but like it's a complement to it, and it's specifically great because it has mid-range boosting and cutting. And then we got sound effects, very simple, just SSL 9000 plugins on those. Lead vocals, I need to talk about these briefly. So the reason I don't just use the SSL equalizer channel strip for vocals is because it is the focal point of most mixes. It's a very, very important element, if not the most important element of a mix, assuming you have vocals. That's why I reached for an Avalon AD 2055. I think it has a very nice soft touch to it, so it essentially makes your vocal, if you need to modify it, not sound like it was modified. It's not a harsh sound. Not that the SSL 9000 is harsh per se, it just doesn't sound as good for vocals as the AD 2055 or a Soundtech MES 432. Good news, if you're in the market and you want a Soundtech, but you don't have $10,000 laying around, well, if you have $3,000 laying around, Stam Audio announced, and they will be shipping their clone of the MES 432 very soon. But I got the plugin, so and Soundtech also has an official plugin. But I also have the SSL 4000. I'm sorry, the SSL 9000 for automation, along with Nova, Dynamic EQ. Nectar is also another great vocal processor. Got a lot of different things you can do with it, including add fake background vocals if you need to. I'm going to give you guys a pro tip. The stabilizer from Ozone, great sibilance reducer, great de-esser. A lot of people don't know about this plugin, and I'm telling you about it right now because it works a treat. Vocal Finalizer, probably not going to use it on most mixes, but it's there if the other plugins aren't good enough. And Pro DS is definitely one of my go-tos. And I'm just going to show you off the rest of these and not talk about them. I could talk while I show them off, right? But I got to do it fast. So sometimes there's 2 lead vocal tracks, but then you bust them out to reverb and delay sends. Rice is a late addition. This one just came out about a week ago. It is a clean sounding reverb. It also features resonance suppression, so it tends to blend in a mix better than a typical reverb. But I'll be making a separate video about Rice in the coming weeks. Maybe, hopefully coming days. I'll check it out. And then this is our delay send. You don't need all these, like I said before. They're there if you need them, but you don't need every single plugin. Like I don't have every single plugin, but you don't need all the plugins I have to get a good sounding mix, or even a great sounding mix. Okay, background vocals. There you go. Same plugins on all 3 tracks for background vocals. And then we have our background vocal bus, reverb only, no delay, compression if you need that, and then I'll also throw a silver bullet on there to make the background vocals sound a little bit bigger if you want them. We have our vocals bus, some tube saturation, one last bit of de-essing if we need it, smart comp, and finally gain, which is important. Again, automation separates the boys from the men and the girls from the women. And that's it for that. I'm just going to show off, this is extra equalizers if I need them. Ready to go. We have some clippers, which I prefer to put on like a drum bus. I guess you could use them on other things. I haven't really tried clipping, you know, like vocals or guitars. I usually just use them on drums. Saturation if you need any. Some extra reverbs. Again, you don't need to buy every single one of these guys. In fact, there's a couple freebies on here, but I have them if I need them. Or if I'm just feeling like instead of red, I want to use yellow. Echo Boy. These are all the delay plugins. This is a cool one. More for recording purposes, you know, for music composition purposes, but I have it on here just in case. This is more for guitars, but it can be used for other things. And then here's one more, Blue Cat, 2 Blue Cat plugins. Almost finished, guys. So compressors. So L-Ray is one. I'm going to give you guys a pro tip. If you mix for TV shows, so reality TV, anything to do with dialogue, L-Ray is a great compressor to use. I'll just leave it at that. Tiger is a good all-arounder, just like FG Stress. This is also another good all-arounder. Just because I have these on here doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to use them. You know? They're there if I need them. If I don't, at the end of the mix, I take them off. Special effects plugins. We have a transient shaper. I'm going to look into trying out the Elijah envelope plugin, because I like that on mixanalog, especially for kick drum, but it's got its other uses too. But envelope shapers are something I really haven't talked about. This is a lo-fi maker. So if you want to do the opposite of, instead of making something sound better, if you want to make it sound worse, degrader from Clevgrand. Speaker Sim. Like I said, these are all like special effects kind of plugins. And then utility plugins, we got MSED. Yep. In fact, all three of these are freebies. And then finally on the mix bus, let's check that out. Slate VCC, which acts like a summing box. Speaking of that, I'm going to be trying out the Rupert Neve Designs one that's up on Access Analog on a mix. See if that's any good. Silver Bullet, I can tell you, is good, which is why I was so excited when it came out. And then we got Baxendel and the Glue. I highly recommend this plugin if you don't have a bus compressor, or use the one up on Access Analog, which is free right now from Audioscape. But anyway, also tape plugin. Might not always use this, but it's there if I need it, along with Slate VTM. Again, you don't have to use these plugins, but they're pretty cool to have. This is a new one. This is the newest one, actually. Acoustical Audio Daisy. As weird as it sounds, as silly as it sounds, they have emulated analog to digital converters and digital to analog converters. Now, ADC to me this is like the key of the plugin, along with the decorrelation. Decorrelate. I was told only have this maximum like at 15, unless you have this. You can use this on like a pad or some kind of other synthesizer. Put decorrelate on it, and you can do some kind of cool things. This is such a new plugin. I'm not going to recommend it right now, but I'm going to be trying it soon. It was worth mentioning if you're going for a complete analog in the box kind of sound, because it essentially, it's like a substitute for a tape machine. So if you're going all analog, stick with just a tape machine. But if you're going for more of what a modern day mastering engineer uses, this will add maybe that last bit of sound to what you got. I'm not going to 100% recommend it right now, though, because I haven't tried it out enough to do so. But anyway, it's there if you need it. I do recommend Sonable True Balance. I use this plugin quite often to make sure that I'm in the right direction with how whatever I'm mastering or mixing sounds. Mix Checker Pro, similar to Speaker Sim, but specifically as a secondary reference from what you're already hearing out of either your headphones or your speakers. This allows you to hear, what does it sound like through a tablet, or through a car speaker, or an SUV speaker, or through whatever, whatever's on here. There is a newer version of Mix Checker, but I have the older one. ARC3, very, very important plugin. These last two, super important. I can't stress it enough. Having calibrated speakers, you will chase your tail like I did, because I had speakers that were too bright. And guess what? My first mixes and masters sounded too dull, because on the speakers I was hearing, they sounded perfectly fine. But then I dropped ARC version 2 back then, or maybe, no, it was version 1 actually. So we got version 1 in the year 2009. Put it on those same speakers that sounded too bright, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Wow. I wasn't 100%, and back then ARC cost, I think, $400 or $500. So this plugin was very expensive back in the day, because you got the measurement microphone plus the software. It was not cheap. Nowadays it is. You can get the little MEMS microphone for $100. You guys are lucky. Anyway, ARC3, it measures your speakers, it measures the room you're in, and it does its thing. And it works pretty darn well. Is it as good as having a properly acoustically treated room with reference quality speakers? No. No, it's not. But is it great for people who are mixing and mastering in their basements, their attics, their bedrooms? Absolutely. Sienna. If you can't afford ARC3, if you can't afford the full version of Sienna, Acoustica have one freebie, which is what I'm showing you guys right now. They have a freebie version of Sienna available still, but I have the paid version. Not every single one of them, mind you, that I spent my own money on. Acoustica did not give this one to me for free, but I did it because it is so important to have, and it was worth mentioning, even if it made the video a little bit longer. You put headphones on, it flattens your headphones out, it calibrates them, and then it puts you virtually into a room. And I'm going to give you guys one big pro tip. Do not choose the presets using this menu system. The thing you should do, right where it says presets, click the arrow next to it, go to room presets, and you see each one of these has an E with an next to it, E in parentheses. Choose those for the most accurate representation of the room and speakers. Now, if for some reason it doesn't sound realistic, this knob right here, this control right here, will make it sound more realistic. And if you need further settings, click Guru, and you can get even more parameters to set. So thank you all for watching. If you want to see the extended video, it's up on Real Home Recording 2, but this is the basics without really going too into depth. Bottom line is, it's set up like as if the console was in this room with me. Obviously, I can't afford a real one, and neither can most of us, but the virtual one, the in-the-box digital one, is good enough for rock and roll and pop and hip-hop music and country music and whatever else. Plugins have gotten really good over the years, and we may as well benefit from them and save on our electric bill too, along with maintenance and repairs and whatnot. But anyway, that's it for the SSL Virtual Console template. I will be including links to my template if you are a Real Home Recording newsletter subscriber. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. This has been Adam for Real Home Recording.